Good evening, everyone, and thank you for coming. I'd like to welcome you all to the all candidates meeting for this election year, municipal election 2011, and we appreciate you showing up. It's nice to see so many faces. And I'd also like to extend a welcome to the candidates and thank you for participating and for letting your names stand for this election. What we're going to do here, my name is John Douglas. I'll be your moderator tonight. What we're going to do is record these proceedings, and it's the Ashcreek TV Society, and these proceedings will be made available on YouTube throughout next week for your personal review. On Election Day, Saturday the 19th of November, you can mark your X beside 4 of the candidates' names for councillor. And on the second ballot for mayor, you mark beside only 1 of the 2 names. And tonight we're going to hear a short speech from each candidate working in this direction, beginning with the new candidates first, followed by the incumbents who are once again running for re-election. After all the candidates are done their short speeches, we will entertain questions to the candidates from the floor. Please address your question through the moderator and direct your question for 1 candidate only in order for time constraints. Rebuttals will be at my discretion. Closing speeches of 2 minutes will be in reverse order, beginning at the far end of the table and working back this way. And in Ashcroft, the councillor candidates will be the first part of the meeting, and the mayoral candidates will be the second part. We'll have a short break while we set up for the changeover after we're done with the councillor candidates. I'd like to introduce you first of all to Mr. John Kidder, who will begin the proceedings. Next to him is Barbara Roden, followed by Jackie Teagart, and then Gail Groom, and Mr. Jerry Fiddick, Helen Cormandy, and Alex Dirksen. And I'll ask John to begin the proceedings with his 5-minute speech, introductory speech.
Thanks, John, and thanks to the Ashcreek TV Society and the Chamber of Commerce for sponsoring this and everybody for coming out. I'm delighted to be here. I'm John Kidder. I'm relatively newbie here in Ashcroft myself. My family's been here about 3 generations. My grandfather was here in the 30s as a judge. I'm not sure if levels are coming through. You hearing that? My grandfather was here in the... Say again? A little closer. My family's been here since the 30s. A whole bunch of you, I think, or many people here knew my mother and father, Ken Kidder and Jill Kidder, when they were here. My wife, Siri, and I bought my mom's place in 2006. Mom died 2008. Siri died 2009. And I'm the lone Kidder left in Ashcroft, and I look forward to continuing to live here for a long, long time. I first came up here in '64, worked at the Chattaway Ranch, and I worked down at the Mesa Vista, the Parkview, and Lornex, done range survey all around the area. I'm really a southern interior guy, and Ashcroft is now my home, and I'm proud of it. I'm asking for your vote as a councillor for the village of Ashcroft. I've been pretty well prepared, I think, for this work. I've been through my life in various incarnations. I've lived in many different parts of the country. I've done many different kinds of jobs. I've been a businessman, a cowboy, a software developer, a governance expert, range manager, a technology inventor, a festival director. I have assisted individuals and agencies to come to consensus on environmental matters and tough land use problems, and I've led nonprofits and community groups through some pretty tough times in Vancouver and elsewhere in the country. Since the mid-'80s, I've been building startup technology companies, and my last company does software for boards of directors, village councils, credit unions, crown corporations, things like that. Those of you who knew my mother, I hope there's some here who knew her, she used to have a phrase that she said, "Home training will tell." And I've always tried to live up to the highest personal and political ethical standards, and I think if I didn't, I would feel the wrath of my mother coming down upon me at any given moment. And those of you who knew Jill will recognize that's the case. I've been active for many years in politics in Vancouver, BC, and Canada. I've been elected to boards of directors of nonprofit and political groups and companies, and I think I've been pretty effective at that work that I've done. Here I'm on the Winding Rivers Arts and Performance Society with a whole pile of really good people who are helping to keep alive and build the cultural thrust of the part of the town. I've been asked to stand as a director of the Ashcroft Legion, and I've been asked by Bill Drinkwater to join the society to help put out this marvelous book of photographs on the Thompson Corridor. I look forward to doing all that work. I think all of this needs to be done to help Ashcroft with some new economic activity. Many of you have been here for a long time. I've been in and out of town since '64, and it's a very different village than it was in 1964. Restaurants, retailers, and service industries and people are having a hard time. It's hard to make a living in this town running a business. And these services with small, locally owned companies, locally owned providers, really are the lifeblood. They're what sustains a community, any community. They sustain the community, and without them, the town's not sustainable itself. So I think we need to work hard on creating new economic activity here, and I think that we can't do that by relying on big projects that are going to be brought to us by others. If they come, that's wonderful. I'm in great support of the inland port. Other things that come along with promises, expansions of tech, and other things that may provide large numbers of jobs are all highly desirable, but to depend upon them is risky. I know the current council doesn't depend upon them, but I think we need to focus hard on what we can build here downtown. And I think we can build a vibrant downtown, if I can call it that. We do have unique assets, all the natural gifts one could hope for. I think the branding exercise that council went through and doing the Wellness Awaits You brand is just excellent. I think it fits very well with what the community's got. Where I think I can assist with that personally, because there's a lot of work to do to deliver on that potential. I kind of wonder sometimes what happens if someone sees that big sign on Highway 1 that says Wellness Awaits You, drives into town, gets out of the car on Railway Avenue and looks up and down and says, well, just where exactly is the wellness waiting for me here? It's not that apparent yet. I think it's coming. Where I think I can be of help there, I know I can, is in the cultural and artistic side. I do believe that there's something that we have here that's unique, that we can develop here that's not in competition with every other town in British Columbia. For all the other projects, we are in competition with every other town in BC. I think that what we've got here is the beginning of an active cultural life. I'm hopeful that we'll get the Opera House back up and going to sustain the other things that are going on. We have a lot of artists, a lot of musicians, other folks in this town, all of whom I think can provide that kind of pulse, a heartbeat that'll help to attract others here. You know, this town, like others, is getting older all the time. It's harder and harder to find reasons for young people to stay really in a town like this. And there's a kind of a chicken and egg question there. If your population doesn't have the services required to support us, if the hospital continues to reduce services, if the small retailers and service industries aren't active, then it's difficult, much more difficult to be an older person here. Likewise, if there's not a sufficient population, it's tougher for those other smaller businesses to be here and support. Thank you. So I think that we can provide the nucleus for starting to grow things again with truly cultural activities sustained by other wellness activities that will come to town and follow. I think all those things are part and parcel of the same thing. I'm not going to go into how well we're served by Interior Health. I think everybody here has got their own opinions on that. Happy to talk about that at any time. I do want to say a couple more things. I am a pretty effective financial manager. You don't run small businesses without being that. Don't run nonprofits without doing that. I'm a fierce watchdog on spending, but at least as importantly here, I know the council have been looking for innovative ways to create revenue opportunities. That's really the critical side. We can't rely on cutting spending to get things sustainable. At the same time, I note that the village is projecting a decrease in our retained surplus from about $1.2 million to $800,000 in about 5 years. That's not an indicator of good financial health. I know the council and the mayor have been working as hard as they possibly can to make sure that's as low as we get, but it's a tough place to be. I'm honored to be a councillor. I ask for one of your 4 votes on November 19th. John Kidder, thank you all very much.
Next up is Barbara Roden. You have 5 minutes, Barbara.
Thank you. Are the sound levels all right? I'm Barbara Roden. I was born in Vancouver, brought up mostly on the Lower Mainland. My father was a Mountie, so we moved around a little bit when I was a child. My work in the Lower Mainland was mainly in the hospitality industry. I spent 8 years with Delta Hotels, for example, working my way up from starting as a cashier in the restaurant through switchboard operator, front desk. Then I was put as night auditor in charge of a 469-room airport hotel. I became night manager, and then I was appointed head of accounts receivable for the same hotel. I left Delta Hotels to move to England in 1992, where my husband Christopher and I established a small press, an independent publishing company called Ashcreek Press. We've gone on to become one of the most recognized and honored small presses in our field, award-winning. We sell books to 36 countries plus around the world. Since moving to Ashcroft, since 2005, I've been employed by School District 74, working in the board office first as office clerk and accounts payable, and currently school secretary working on the relief list there. Our son Tim is 14 years old. He was probably one of the last children to be born here in Ashcroft in the hospital in 1997. He's currently in grade 9 at this very high school. I've been coming to Ashcroft since 1971, when my mother and father, Bill and Heather Haycock, first brought us up here to stay with friends who own property up on Cornwall. I think it's safe to say that the entire family fell in love with Ashcroft at that time. We spent many, many happy days here when I was growing up, coming up for the weekends. An indication of how much we all loved Ashcroft can be seen in the fact that my parents retired here from the Lower Mainland in 1994. And when in 1996, Christopher and I, living in England, were looking to relocate our publishing company to Canada, me moving home and Christopher emigrating, he asked me if I wanted to move back to the Lower Mainland, which is where I was from, and I said no, I want to move to Ashcroft. The very first time Christopher came to Canada in 1992, I made a special trip to bring him up here because I wanted to show him this beautiful part of the country. I think to this day he thinks I laid on the bear that we saw on that trip. No, I did not arrange the bear to be there. It was a happy accident. But I think it was an omen because when Christopher asked me about moving here and I said Ashcroft, he immediately said yes. I'm proud to be able to say I'm from Ashcroft. I love this town. Like Mr. Kidder, I've seen a lot of changes in the 4 decades that I've been coming here and living here. Not all of them for the best. It saddens me to drive down Railway and see the empty lots, see the empty buildings, see the things, the ghosts of what I remember having been there in the past. I realize there is no magic solution. We are in the middle of an economic downturn which is not local or provincial or even countrywide, it is global. No one is going to come in to save us. We have to depend on ourselves to do what we can to continue to ensure that Ashcroft remains a place that the people who live here want to be in, which means we have to have a range of services for everyone. It's depressing to look at the statistics and see up to the age of 20, the population level of Ashcroft is fine. Over the age of about 45, 50, we have a very healthy demographic. It's the 20 to 45-year-old demographic that just plummets. And we have to ensure, even if our children go elsewhere for their education, which I'm in favor of, that we have reasons for them to want to come back here, and we have things here for them to come back to. I would like the opportunity to work with the community for the community. I am only one person. We are one council trying to do our best in a small town. There are 4 to 5 dozen other villages in British Columbia, villages up to the population of 2,500, all of whom are facing exactly the same problems we are. So I think we have to go back to the spirit that developed Ashcroft, that built it, that weathered so many different storms over the decades, and we have to find it in ourselves to work together to make sure we stay within our means, within our budget, and that we work with what we have and the people we have here, the talent, the entrepreneurship, the innovative solutions that we're going to need to make sure that Ashcroft remains a place that is welcoming for residents and for visitors alike. Thank you.
Barbara, we will hear next from Jackie Teagart.
Thank you, John, and thank you for the opportunity to speak this evening. I'm a newcomer to Ashcroft, too. I've been here 49 years, and I know that the old-timers think we're still new to the community. I live in Ashcroft because I love it here. I came here in grade 6, so that gives you a hint of my age. And throughout my time in Ashcroft, I've served the community in many different ways. I served 17 years on school board, 15 of those as the chair, and I've also served 2 terms on council. I think that The newspaper did an excellent write-up, and I hope that everyone's taken the time to look at it. I'd like to share with you just a few ideas to put on the floor in regards to what I'd like to see in Ashcroft. I certainly am excited about the branding exercise. I think, like John and Barbara have both said, we have something special here. One of the concerns I have is our limited land availability. And I think that council needs to look at the possibility of expansion and also at the possibility of getting the Mesa Vista lands back. We have very few building lots available in our community, and if we want to build, we have to plan for that. I think infrastructure is a critical element for our community. We are old, and with age comes maintenance and financing that maintenance. I certainly would like us to look at our water usage and how much water we use. We live in a desert, and we all expect beautiful green lawns. And maybe we can be the leaders in looking at different ways to look at our water usage and how we use it in our community. The recycling. We recycle in partnership with the TNRD. How much of our waste stream is going into recycling, and at what point will that affect us as we pick up our weekly garbage? Maybe we can consider looking at garbage pickup once every 2 weeks in the winter. I know in the summer it might get a tad bit ripe, but we need to look at different ways to do business. Just because we've always done it that way doesn't mean we need to continue to do it that way. Economic development certainly is an area of concern, and as stated by the others, going down Main Street is very concerning. But how do we build a business community when we have community members who shop outside of our community? And I know all of us do that, but we need to build a healthy business community by building commitment to our community. Partnerships. Certainly, schools are very important for young families to stay in our community. We need to partner very effectively with the school district and talk about how important education and the quality of education is to keep young families here. I have lots of ideas. I have an open mind. I'm more than willing to listen to people. And on November 19th, I hope you vote for a strong team, and I hope I'm one of them. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jackie. Next we have, speaking for you, Gail Groom.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for coming. I'm starting off by saying that over the last few weeks, I've been talking to a good cross-section of the population, trying to get feedback as to what they feel should happen with Ashcroft. And the consensus seems to be that we need more young people in here, more business-oriented people. I have also been told that there are several young families considering leaving Ashcroft because of the potential school closure, the elementary school. And I think that would be a crime because I can speak directly. I had my grandchildren living with me for a year, and my granddaughter attended grade 3 at the Ashcroft Elementary School, and I was most impressed with the quality of the education she received. My husband and I moved here in 2005. We've lived here on and off, and when we first arrived, the population was 1,800. It is now 1,664. Looking at the demographics at that time in the village office on the website, the median age was 53 plus. Now, I know that the census information, the data hasn't come in yet, so I don't know how the demographics will look. Ashcroft is beautiful. The big sky, clean air, quiet life, affordable housing, but when you do go into the downtown section on Railway, well, the word I hear is quaint. And I really have economic development on my mind. I think, as everyone else does, I don't have the answers, but I feel that there should be a sense of urgency, and we should be coming up with innovative ideas and to try to put our heads together, get community involvement to try to find ways to bring business-oriented people to town and young families. And I think when this happens, all of the other issues, the hospital issue, the school, potential school closure, the other issues will look after themselves. I've traveled all over the world with my husband. I've worked all over the world. I've worked in high-position corporate situations. I've been self-employed. Having lived in cities, large cities, lived in smaller communities. I actually lived in a town in Kalgoorlie, Western Australia. This was 40 years ago, which looked very much like Ashcroft. Dusty, desert country. And now that town is 30,000 and prospering with a well-structured downtown area. I'm trying to think of what else to say. Yes, sidewalks. Sidewalks are needed in Ashcroft, trees. This isn't going to happen overnight. I know this is long-term, but that is one thing on my wish list. And lastly, marketing. I know a lot of work's been done on the marketing and with the tourist booth across from Safety Mart. I think there should be more emphasis on attracting business. And this isn't an original thought, someone told me, and I thought it was brilliant, that a tourist booth could be placed strategically on the highway to attract people to come down into Ashcroft. That's just food for thought. So it's basically all I have to say tonight, and if I'm elected, I will work very hard for you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Gail. Next, we'll have the first of our incumbent candidates, Mr. Jerry Fiddick.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Jerry Fiddick. I have lived in Ashcroft for over 13 years. Over the past 13 years, I've been very involved in the community, and the skills I have gathered from my career in the RCMP and the experience through volunteering in different committees and groups, I feel has provided me with a solid understanding and knowledge of our community. Now, having served 3 years on council, has afforded me even more understanding of what we need to do, more knowledge and experience on what tools we need to do it, and the skills to work to make it happen. It won't be easy, and as I have learned over the last 3 years, it won't happen overnight. It takes time and energy, and I am committed to putting in the time and energy working for you in the community to the best of my ability. I recognize that we need to continue to look at our healthcare services as well as our local economy. I believe one of the roles of council is to assist our business sector to grow and be a vital part of our community. I also believe to be a healthy community, all sectors need to be looked at and encouraged to grow. Community development, as we all want to see it develop, does lead to community wellness and continues to work towards our brand, Wellness Awaits You. How do we do that? Well, we start by attracting new industry, supporting the Chamber of Commerce, which is vital to the business sector of our community, promoting and supporting downtown business, encouraging home-based businesses, continue to work on the healthcare services, not just to maintain them, but to have some services returned to the community. Social service support systems need our support. Agencies such as the Elizabeth Fry Society, the Ministry of Children and Family Development, thrift shops, hospital auxiliary, the food bank, the Soups On, which happens every Friday. Tourism is another vital part. The tourist booth this summer is a fine example of what we can do when people work together to make it happen. A strong municipal government, able to make tough and fair decisions that benefit the entire community as a whole, as well as the individual citizens. Policing. Part of that we've worked on is the return of the court services. Limited, but still coming back. The fire department. That's just to name a few. Along with change should come more communication. The monthly bulletin and the new websites are a good start, but we need to continue to expand and improve on that and let folks know when there's things in the village that are going to affect them and how they're going to affect them. Teamwork is necessary and vital for council to get the job done. And I know that I can work as a team and also work well with the various sectors, partners for the community. Ashcroft is our home, and I feel I have more to contribute in the role of a councillor and look forward to serving you and the community for the next 3 years. I am ready to make a further commitment. I ask for your vote on November 19th. Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry. Our next incumbent candidate is Helen Cormandy.
My name is Helen Cormandy, and I'm seeking re-election for the position of councillor with the Village of Ashcroft. I want to begin with a thank you to the Ashcreek TV Society for sponsoring this all-candidates meeting and expressing my appreciation, and thanks for your confidence in me over the past 6 years. I have learned a great deal in my role as a councillor over this period of time, and my sense is that we live in a community where people feel safe, connected, empowered, and are incredibly giving. We have a distinct history linking us to our heritage, providing us with a strong identity and the knowledge to move onward. My passion, and therefore my goal as we move forward, is around sustainability, always situating decisions made today with a view that includes the future. I am committed to working hard to encourage sustainable growth that enhances our community for future generations. And all of this will be done within the very challenging current fiscal global marketplace of uncertainty. As the federal and provincial governments work to address these issues, it is at the municipal level that we have first-hand experience of this situation. As a community, Ashcroft is faced with a number of challenges that are similar to those of many small rural communities. Our population continues to decrease, with our largest number of people between the ages of 45 and 79. So the question has to be, where are the young families and how do we attract them? We have some of the most affordable housing in the province, recreation facilities that are second to none, both elementary and secondary schools, and fresh air. While our landscape features a unique beauty, providing us with many opportunities to feel part of nature and look after our health. So it seems the answer is that we need to be able to find jobs to bring people to our area, and that means increased business in our region. We have the space, we're open for business, and our costs are less than larger centres. We need to promote ourselves through the leadership on council and making better use of existing services by having a more integrated approach, streamlining the path for businesses. I also believe that increasing taxes is something that should be done at the last choice and not the first option through hard fiscal times. As a member of council, I understand the argument about increasing taxes for the provincial initiative to deal with tangible capital assets, or TCA, and it is clear to see the importance of funds for future improvements. But I believe that any collection of taxes needs to be assigned and protected in a TCA account, and that is not the case, and one of the reasons I voted against the increase. The other reason is that I believe in tough times right now, and that every penny counts for our citizens. Although healthcare and schools are not the responsibility of municipal governments, we use them, and for that reason, as a municipality, I will continue to advocate for our hospital to be open 24/7, as this service is essential for all citizens, and I believe it is a contributing factor to a declining population. I also work with the school board, another elected body, to continue to have both an elementary and secondary schools in our village, as I do not believe young families will want to live in a community without schools. I will also continue to ensure our infrastructure is well maintained, including our water, sewer, garbage, and roads. I could say lots about these items, as they are legislative roles given to municipal government, but perhaps you will call me for more information in any of those areas that you're interested or concerned about. I began campaigning yesterday, going door to door, asking people if they have any comments, concerns, or issues they wanted to tell me about. And I am struck by the diversity of the opinions I heard. Many people seem very content. Others are very specific about the changes they want to see, while others are worried about the future and actively looking to move. But as with any question, there were those that didn't fit into one of these categories, and it was those people that I witnessed a tension as they felt Ashcroft was their home, but because of the lack of services, felt they had to move. Finally, the reason I entered politics remains my main reason for being here today. I carry a very strong belief in community engagement, and I have worked very hard to create a government that is open and transparent. I believe our website and monthly newsletter are two examples of that communication. So, when you think of our brand, Wellness Awaits You, I hope you will consider how our democratic process is part of that wellness and exercise your vote on November 19th. And I ask for your support by voting Cormandy Helen. Thank you.
Thank you, Helen. Our last candidate tonight for councillor is also our last incumbent candidate, and that is Alice Dirksen. 5 minutes, Alice.
Yes, and I'm assured that the mic will manage the tape, but it doesn't help you hear at all, so I'm going to stand up so that I know that I can project a little better. I want to thank the Ashcreek TV Society for being here to record this evening, because I know a lot of people will want to hear from these wonderful candidates. And also I want to thank you all for coming out tonight. And I want to also thank you. As a person who's been in the community for 4.5 years, I would like to thank everyone for allowing me the privilege of serving you on Ashcroft Village Council for the last 3 years. I feel truly honored to have served you. It was, or it is, as you can imagine, it did involve a steep learning curve, but it's proven to be the most satisfying of the 3 careers I've had in my life, and one as a minister and one as a teacher. So I want to assure you that I've enjoyed working with you and for you. I want to thank Mayor Anderson and Councillors Cormandy and Fiddick and Williams, who I think is in the audience, for being such a great team together and making it such a pleasant past term. Local government has a limited mandate, we all know that. However, for a community to thrive, especially a rural community, we have to address 3 basic components. The 3 components are economic development, health care, and education. And we've heard that spoken to eloquently this evening. I have appreciated Mayor Anderson and the other business leaders who have been diligently working on economic development for the past 6 years or more, especially around the Ashcroft terminal. Healthcare has been one of the major things that I was engaged in immediately upon getting on council, and it's the primary reason I'm allowing my name to stand for another term. We have only just begun the work of building a sustainable model of healthcare for our community. There is much yet to be done. I'm happy to say that progress continues to be made. The community coming up with the new brand Wellness Awaits You was a true gift to council's work in the health area. We've had lots of feedback about that as we've been out to meetings of what a good idea that is. I also want to tell you that my definition of wellness comes from the word hale or healthy and whole. And so for me, that idea of wellness includes everything that makes life satisfying. We have continued over the past 3 years to meet with the healthcare ministers because the minister changed several times in there. We met with the College of Physicians and Surgeons, and we continue to explore new options. We are excited about being part of a transition from an illness-based delivery system to a model where health and wholeness are of primary concern. And we are appreciating that 2 doctors, since the time I've been in town, have been attracted during the last 3 years. It is also my privilege to be liaison from council to school district number 74 Gold Trail. And we know that good, accessible education is truly important to attracting new families to our village. And we as a council are continuing to work with them. That's begun recently. to encourage and to support and to see that the very best is happening for us. Of course, there's also work to be done with tourism, the new brand, the new tourist booth, the connection with Gold Country, especially the geocaching aspect of it, has given us a start on attracting new tourists to town. The key to future success is, I believe, is having a vision for success. Very few things are achieved from the lack perspective, from lamenting that the glass is only half full. It takes belief in and holding to a vision of what we want to achieve. It is doing the little things that bring that vision closer and closer. It is believing in the possibility, in possibility. It is in speaking the words of success. It is knowing that our dreams are achievable. It is working together with a common goal, with a sense of respect and inclusion. I often think of the sign on the highway for the little town of Chemainus on the island. The sign on the highway says when the forestry industry collapsed, they decided that they were a little town that could. And when I think of it, I think of Ashcroft, I always think Ashcroft is the little town that does. Thank you.
Thank you, Alice. At this point, I would like to invite anyone from the audience that may have a question for any one of the candidates to come on down and stand in front of the microphone down here. And if you have any particular issues that you'd like to have discussed or questions answered, by all means, feel free. Anyone?
My name is Laurie Valancourt, and I would like to ask any one of the three incumbents, the sign on the highway that says a wellness awaits you, or a wellness awaits us, why was there not anything on the sign that indicated what we as a community offered? I don't see that on the sign anywhere. Is it?
Right.
No.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I guess the way I'd respond to that is that Wellness Awaits You is our brand. And so how one defines that is really up to the individual. And it's very encompassing. It's not something that we would be able to itemize, I would say, that because it's whatever it is around wellness that fits for you. And so we didn't see it as something that we would be able to itemize. And that's really about how branding works, too. You can see it throughout Canada, a brand, and it's got a couple of words. So that's my understanding of it.
That's right, I don't have to use that for you. Also, Community Futures helped to have that sign be put in place. It was not necessarily a council activity. And at this point in time, getting the brand out there, having people feel like something's going on in Ashcroft, having it be legible, something new, something different, being legible from the road. So as far as I know, other people that know more about the branding process might want to add something to that.
Yeah, the development of a brand takes a good number of years, and basically this is the first step. But we're continuing to work on the brand and developing it and getting it out there. And maybe at some point there will be something that indicates some of the attributes and the beauty in the area, so that it entices people down here. But this is the first step, so we have to see how it develops over the years.
Dale Lyon, resident of Ashcroft. No person in particular, but anybody that wants to go for it. Wellness Awaits You, one of the things that it means to me is a green community. And I would like to hear feelings about herbicide, pesticide use in the village.
Thank you. Anyone want to carry that ball? Herbicide and pesticide use?
Yeah, go ahead.
What it means to us?
Well, I'll just try it quickly. I mean, there's been a whole lot of activity around BC and a whole lot of other communities about trying to stop people using Roundup in urban areas. That's really been a big issue with a lot of places, certainly a big issue in Penticton, Summerland, Penticton have all banned it in the urban areas. It's still in wide use in agriculture, of course, but I think we need to be very, very careful of whatever it is we're doing within the confines of the urban area to actually not only live up to a brand, wellness awaits you, but to show that the community is moving in this direction of sustainability, as everyone I think supports, everyone here certainly supports, and to do that by, where we can, probably substituting labor for chemicals or actually doing hard work against the option of wandering around with tanker trucks and spraying chemicals on things. That's just my personal point of view. I'm sure this has been discussed at length at council, but of course I've not been there. So I look forward to hearing from the comments on what's been going on.
Okay. To me, wellness awaits you as a lifestyle. And the area, Ashcroft and the area to me is the lifestyle. The air is clean, there's clean water, there's good water. You can go out, you can walk the streets, you can hike up in the mountains. All of that, plus it's the health services too, but it's the whole encompassing thing. It's a whole, lifestyle. It's how you feel inside and how you like the sunshine and you get out and get involved. It's all part of the same thing.
How does it relate to herbicide use?
Hmm?
How does it relate to herbicide use? No?
I would like to suggest that when we talk about wellness awaits you, everything that council does should have that filter. And so if herbicide and pesticide use is an issue, what does that mean when we think about wellness awaits us? And I think that the brand is the beginning step, but we have to put it into action. And so around the herbicide and pesticide use, when it comes up at council and we use that filter, I think that it's pretty clear where that should go.
Yes, it has been a discussion item at council, and we're looking very carefully and have tried several different things. Theme was one of the things that we tried to use to keep the weeds down in areas that need to be kept down. I think there's many of us who are very convinced that we do need to conserve water. In my own yard, we have no grass. We have only raised beds and gravel paths. We watch our watering. We don't use any pesticides other than insecticidal soap on occasion. So we understand the need to have the very cleanest of practices in the village. And we have been attending to that and working on that.
Barbara, do you want to weigh in on that at all?
Certainly. I'm the world's worst gardener, so I'm probably the last person who should be talking about pesticide and herbicide. But I think one thing that is increasingly clear to everyone is that the impact we make on the world around us has repercussions that in many cases we can't foresee and that will possibly live on beyond us and not in a good way. I think there is something of a knee-jerk reaction or a tendency for people to come and outright ban things. Sometimes, of course, that is absolutely necessary, but I think, as the incumbents have mentioned, it's something that has come up at council, and I think that it would be council's job to listen, really listen to the concerns of the people who are coming to council with questions about herbicide and pesticide use, and to come up with solutions which we can all agree on and which will work. Not by necessarily outright banning things, but by working together to come up with solutions that will be effective for what we need to do, but will also be effective in that we will not be leaving a footprint or a residue for future generations to have to deal with.
Thank you. Next question.
This is somewhat multi-part, and it's really addressed to everybody, incumbents and prospective candidates, and it relates to taxes. What I find the most depressing thing in Ashcroft is the number of vacant lots on railway. And I wonder if the present council considered, when they were revising taxes for the current year, some form of penal tax for people who have vacant lots in town and show no interest in developing them, or some sort of penal tax for properties that are continued to be kept empty. And in the case of the latter, is there any way in which council could, let's say, soften the taxes a little bit for people who had empty properties but were prepared to let them at rents that were economically affordable to people who wanted to start small businesses in town?
Well, I'll take a stab at it. I think the issue around taxes is it has to be around fairness for all businesses and all citizens. And so this idea of having something that would be different, if somebody was to come to council with a proposal like that, then that's something that we could discuss. But I think in fairness, we always need to look at our tax base as being the same for all members of the community. We wouldn't look at something that would be for one person and not the other. Now, if one person fit into a category and everybody was interested in that, certainly that's something we would consider. But it would be a challenge, I think, when we know 90% of our tax base is residential, to go down that road. So people would need to be really clear about what that would look like. And the other thing I want to say is that when I hear the word penal, it kind of doesn't really fit a lot for me, because the way I like to approach things on council is to educate people. So if we can offer education around what we're doing, we're more likely to get people to say that that's going to work for them, or it gives them enough time to move forward.
What was his question?
I too take exception to the idea of penalizing people for having empty property. I think the thing that we need to do is really work on the idea of encouraging people to start new businesses. Having a business that has been started in the last 3 years, my husband and I have a coffee roasting business, and we find that it has increased each year since we've been here. And we find that a lot of it comes from the people coming through town who are coming, they shop at Safety Mart, they pick up their coffee for the weekend as they go to the lake or as they vacation. And so we find that is moving forward. So we know that even though it might not look good on Railway Avenue, there are all kinds of options, and I certainly would not be in favor of penalizing the owners of those properties, because they're as eager as anyone else to have something viable there. So I would have to say I wouldn't be in favor of that.
I don't know what the question was.
It was long. I'm not going to convince anyone that this wasn't rehearsed. I had no idea my husband was going to ask a question, so I haven't had a chance to rehearse a spontaneous answer here for it. What I would say is, the Harvey Bailey building burnt down 10 years ago, 10 and a half years ago. It was July 2001, I remember. And it depresses me to drive down Railway and see that lot still empty, and see the safe or whatever, the vault, whatever it is, still standing there like a jagged, broken tooth. Sorry, that's the writer in me coming out. It's depressing, and I don't know. I've never been on council, so I don't know what the answer is to encourage someone to develop that land. But I think as a council, we need to be innovative. We need to be creative. We need to work with the business community, with prospective business owners, with all the stakeholders, to see what we can do to encourage the development, fill in some of these gaps on Railway. We have such a beautiful village. We have so many wonderful, wonderful buildings. It's just a shame to see those empty lots. We need to do something to get them filled and make Railway a bustling, vibrant place. And that ties in, too, with the study that the TRU students did, the geography students, about looking at the bikeability and walkability of Ashcroft. What can we do to make Railway a place that people want to walk along and shop on? One of the most obvious things to do is to get some more businesses and buildings in there so that we can make it a place that people can park their car and walk from one end of the street to the other and feel that they've had a pleasant walk, they've bought what they need, they've bought what they want, they've had a wonderful time. That's residents, that's visitors, everyone.
I personally would not be in favor of penalizing people for owning property on Main Street. I think they would love to have buildings and vibrant businesses in their spots right now. As a business person in Ashcroft, who is part owner of an art gallery, we called it our social enterprise. We provided a service to the community and to the artists, but quite honestly, it was very, very difficult to ever think we would make a living from that. And that's the reality of business, is that business people are struggling and they need the support. And as we build community, I really envision that that will help build our downtown. But to penalize people who own the properties, I'm sure they would love to have a vibrant business knocking at their door saying, please let us open. But it's pretty difficult at this point. It's again my view, Christopher, that if someone had a business that they wanted to open and they saw a location they wanted and it was a vacant lot, I'm sure that person would be quite open to building or to looking at the possibilities there. But I don't know how many people are knocking on the doors of the Village Council to say we've got business ideas and we don't have space.
I want to kind of just add to pretty much what everyone else has said. A tax penalty really just serves further to reduce the value of lots which already clearly are not particularly valuable. There are all kinds of innovative ways, again, which I'm sure the Mayor and Council have looked at for providing short-term tax incentives with higher rates when things are successful, et cetera. But when all's said and done, as Jackie has said, and so has Karen, the portion of a businesses' decisions that are based on a tax rate is actually a relatively small factor. The question is whether or not you think you can have a successful business. Then the tax rate will enter into that as a sort of a calculation at the margin, but it's unlikely to be, regardless of what we hear from governments around the world, it's not what corporations don't choose to exist somewhere because of a 1-point difference in corporate tax. They choose to exist somewhere because there's a chance for a vibrant community, a vibrant business. And I completely second what the others have said. That's what we need to be working on. Whether or not there are tax incentive schemes that might be put in place, I'm sure, again, Council and the Mayor have looked at that. There may be other innovative ways to approach those problems. But tax penalties, I don't think, are going to serve the purpose.
My name's Al Alberts. Probably all washed your car at one time or another. I've heard a lot of things tonight about Railway Avenue and what are we going to do with all the vacant lots. But I haven't heard anything really too much about some industry. You can't drive a train with a caboose. You need an engine. You got to get that sucker started first. And what I would like to hear from this council is what are they going to do or what are they going to work at to get this thing going, get something out there. There's really no... You can easily build buildings. I could build some more buildings on Railway Avenue, but what are they going to do? You got to get people, you got to get more people in this town, and we don't need a whole bunch of old guys like me. We need some young people with some kids, the school, the arts center, all that stuff comes after. But first you got to get the thing going. I can tell you about towns that are up north right now that you can't hire an employee because there's something to do there. But as long as you got nothing to do, you're not going to get any people here. So I would like to hear somebody down the line, give me something that tells me, and then we'll build something. Like you can go down Railway Avenue after 5 o'clock and shoot a cannon down that damn street, and there's not a soul on it, there's not a light, there's nothing. And that's what I would like to see. And I'll help. I'll do all I can. And I would like to say thank you, people, for letting your names stand.
Thank you, Al.
Well, I gotta go first if I can. And there's all sorts of things going on with people to try to attract industry, and I hope that they're all successful. What I do want to say is that it's not evident, but a cultural community has got the largest multiplier effect of anything that can happen within a small community. It's happened, and if you look at it, you can see it across North America. If you go look at what's happened in towns like Ashcroft, you look at what Taos, New Mexico used to be. It used to look like Ashcroft. You look at Sonoma, Arizona. It used to look like Ashcroft. Those are now vibrant cultural communities. People are attracted there. They come there. They spend a bunch of money. Some of them move there and live there. And I think there's all kinds of reasons that industry may or may not come. But industry in general is employing fewer and fewer people. We keep seeking productivity, which means less people doing the same amount of work. What happens in the cultural industries is expansion of activity, is expansion of community, and expansion of the interconnectedness that makes it work, and it draws people from out of town. And there are examples of it all over North America. I think we can do the same thing here. And then when you fire that cannon down Railway Avenue, it better just be fireworks, because otherwise you're just going to light up a street that's full of people. That's the hope, anyway. Thank you.
Is there any reason why Ashcroft cannot have a cannery again? Or this is ranch country. What about a saddlery? In Mississauga, where I lived for 18 years, they had, in the little strip malls, you would go and there would be one business after another, little development companies, software development, different types of businesses. Young people, can we not bring them here? Can we not say this is a beautiful, with the fresh air, it's a beautiful climate to raise children, very healthy, safe. These are things that go on in my mind. They're just sort of scattered thoughts right now, but I think we need to do a lot of research, be like-minded, and hopefully we can implement some of these ideas. Thank you very much.
I'd like to, Alice would like to remind people that we cannot legislate business. We can invite, we can inspire, we can encourage, but private business owners are private business owners. We need to do all of the three things I talked about in order to encourage people to come here. We need to seek the economic development, we need to work with the schools, and we need to work with health care and we need more people like Al Alberts who have the enthusiasm. And I apologize, I'm at an age that I don't want to open a coffee shop, otherwise I'd be doing it somewhere in town. But we need to have the energy and the attitude that something wonderful can happen, and when something comes and it doesn't pan out, then we just say, what's next? Because the positive attitude is going to do more to turn this place around than anything. And I hear what you're saying about history, and that's important too, and we all need to get behind the things we really love and encourage them to happen.
I just want to address the previous question and then kind of segue neatly into yours there, I hope. As Mr. Kidder alluded to in his opening remarks, if industry moves to Ashcroft, that is a bonus. We are not in a good position. Industries are closing, they are downsizing, they are outsourcing. There is tremendous competition from the Ashcrofts, not only of British Columbia, but every province and every state. For every industry that wants to move somewhere, there are myriad towns saying, please pick us. So it is very much a buyer's market. I would love to see the inland port, but going to the meeting, the council meeting, the most recent one, and listening to what they have gone through, the amount of hard work and time and energy they have poured into developing the inland port, and this is going back over the better part of a decade. And those wheels move really, really slowly, and I think any town or village that tries to hitch their success to something like that, it's not going to happen. We have to work on that, certainly, that's one strand, but to kind of segue into the history, the Opera House. That is a gorgeous building. When the Opera House was up and running, I was hearing from people from all over this region, from the Lower Mainland, saying, oh, you're from Ashcroft, you've got that great Opera House. Barney Bentall was there, wasn't he? We were a byword for that Opera House, and the people that came in, not just from Ashcreek and from Spence's Bridge, Lytton, from Kamloops, from Armstrong, from the Lower Mainland, people making Ashcroft a destination because of one building, one entrepreneur, one person with an idea, all the volunteers and people who helped to come to make that happen. That's building on our history. That's taking a tremendous natural asset and turning it to our advantage. And that's just one business. If we could do that times 6 or 8, imagine the spin-off benefits for Ashcroft. And then that cannon, we wouldn't be able to fire it anywhere in the vicinity of downtown Ashcroft because the sidewalks would not be rolling up at 5 o'clock at night. We would have a bustling downtown community where people are coming to take in our heritage and what we offer.
I'd like to address Albert's question also. So, sorry, keep thinking it's a mic. It's not. I'm in agreement with this idea around industry, but I have to say that I am hopeful that the inland port will happen, and our current mayor has worked very hard to make that happen, but it may not be this year, it may not be in a couple of years, but I do think that definitely that land's there. The federal government has come forward to do some matching money, so I do think that's a possibility, but that is industry. And I want to echo what Barbara Rodens said about the Ashcroft Opera House. And my thoughts around this are the population that we need to pull in here. We're talking a lot about how do we attract young families, and we have to do that, but we have to look at the demographics. Recently, I was able to hear David Foote, who wrote Boom Buster Echo at UBCM, speak about the demographics. And the way that he does it, he actually does kind of a bit of a graph and he bulges it. And the bulge of the population are they're baby boomers. So they're born between the ages of the years of 1946 and 1964. And that's where our bulk of our population is. And those people have money, and those people, I would think, would be very interested in going, as we saw, the Ashcroft Opera House, going to address your question about they're very interested in heritage, and then going to Mr. Kidder's response around a cultural community. That's what brought people in here, and it was successful, but it has to be driven by business. Council, we can do whatever we can think of to bring people in, to help them with business, but we can't do it. That's not our role. We can't use your taxes to set up business. So those are ideas, and I think that's something that we need to discuss as a council about how do we move forward. The other thing is that we are a member of the Northern Development Initiative Trust, and there's abilities to bring businesses into the community with cost-sharing formulas with them on side. So there are lots of things out there, but all of those require that cost-sharing part. So it's not 100%, and that requires your taxes. So those are some of the ideas that I have around that.
Jackie, did you want to say something?
As part of the Economic Development Committee for the Council these past 3 years, I echo what Helen has said here in the fact that we have worked very hard to try to attract and make Ashcroft presentable for business and industry to come, but we can't make them come. And the Ashcroft Terminal is something that we've supported and worked on, and there are things happening out there, but it has taken its time, and it's going to continue to take time. It's not something that's going to happen overnight, especially during these economic times. But I can promise you that we work very hard to try to get the industry into our area. Again, the Opera House was great. It brings tourists in, it brings dollars in, but it doesn't bring young families. And you actually need something to bring in young families.
Yeah, I think my question is, if I can ask a question back, as neighbors, is there anything we can do to help that person? All of you out there, is there, there's a business person trying to get that back online, and I know some of you are working to help that person get it finished so that it can be used again. But that isn't something that council.
I didn't hear that.
Heritage building.
Make it a heritage building. Oh, okay. Well,
perhaps if you have a comment, you can get in line, like this gentleman is here.
Yeah, these guys, honestly, fellas, these folks are candidates. They're trying to answer questions, and if it becomes a free-for-all, then they're not going to get a really honest chance to state their case on these questions. I'd like you to either get in line or hold your peace, okay? Thank you.
I have to apologize. I asked them a question, so excuse me.
We got a little off base there.
Yeah.
Is there anyone else? Jackie, did you want to say something on that one? On the industry question.
Yes, I would like to address the industry question. And I think for many, many years we looked for that big industry that was going to come in and save our community. And I think that, as many have said, it's a slow process and it's a building process. And the time when the Opera House was up and running and the art gallery was up and running and our museum was there, we had that core service that people came and stayed for the day. How do we get people into our community, and how do we start to understand what young families need? Because I'm not young, and I don't know what they are looking for. Yes, because, we're all identifying young families as what we need in our community, and what are their needs. And I don't know who's asked them, because they're moving out in droves.
Well, one thing, excuse me, Jackie, one thing I did hear was the lack of recreation facilities for young people. I know it's wonderful. We have the tennis courts now, and we have the sports, soccer, etc., but there isn't a movie theater. It was suggested that perhaps the ice rink, the arena, could be made into a roller rink, this type of thing to keep the teenagers involved and happy. That's just one of the things that I did hear from quite a few young people.
My name is Bob Rankin. I'm a newcomer to Ashcroft. I've been here approximately a year and a half. I've fallen in love with the town. My wife has also. We like the people. We like the climate. We like the history of Ashcroft. Barkerville in 1958 had 15 buildings when they started the rehabilitation of Barkerville. There was 15 buildings out of 120 original buildings. What all happened to them? They got burned down, they crumbled away, they went to waste. So when you go to Barkerville, and I don't know how many people here have been, but I talk to people, say, gee, I've never been to Barkerville. What you see in Barkerville today are all reproductions. Like Jackie said, Barbara said, I hear stories of the Opera House, the little shops that were here, and I think most people here, I know I would, like to see this developed again. And I have a suggestion how I'd like to see that happen. I would like to see a council, a group, lobby the provincial government. Money is scarce. It's going to take tax money to do this. And that tax money has got to come from the province. We could create a historic Ashcroft every bit as good as Barkerville, even better than Barkerville. And I think that's something we should be working on. People pass on the highway. I'm guilty. All my life, I lived in BC, I lived in Kamloops, I lived in Prince George, I've lived all over the country. I've driven past Ashcroft. 10 years ago, we came into Ashcroft. My wife and I were hunting on Cornwall Mountain. We came here to get gas, came here to do our laundry. We had a bad scene with the laundromat at the time, unfortunately. We understood later what happened. Our impression of Ashcroft was, what a dump. There was nothing here that we had the blinders on that laundromat.
Okay, Bob, is there a final question that they could address, or do you want to sit
I
on
would
this
like
side of
to
the
just
table?
offer a little bit of suggestion. People drive by on the highway. We have got to pull them into Ashcroft. Barkerville is 70-odd clicks off the highway. It pulls people in, doesn't it? And we're only 6 kilometers from the highway. I rest my case.
Okay, I'd like to answer that. So Barkerville, and we think of Hat Creek Ranch, they're heritage trust sites. And so people don't actually live there. It's a tourist site that people go to. So they're very different. So to think that people would come to a place where people were just working, because what they do, I've been to Barkerville many times, and so it's very different than to think that this would be it's almost like a museum, because this is a village that people are living in.
It could be a thriving museum, and what is wrong with change? Just because it has never been that way, why don't we make it new? If we're going to progress, we've got to move ahead. Put the past behind us. Things that have been done in the past shouldn't always be the gospel. If we want to get a new, vibrant community and a recreation of this historic Ashcroft with the wellness community, I think that's something we should strive for. We have the land. We have a strip of land from the recycling depot down to the cemetery. There is an area that's owned by the village of Ashcroft. That could be a reconstruction site if we got that provincial tax money. And once you bring people in to see historic Ashcroft, then you start your small businesses. And from there, Ashcroft does nothing but go ahead.
Okay,
Thank
thanks,
you.
Bob.
Thank you.
I'm getting signals that we are running against a time constraint here. I think we have time for one more question, and then we do want to move on to the mayoral candidates and give them a shot here as well. We still have to do our closing speeches, so if we could take one more question and then move into that area.
My name is Bill Haycock. I've previously been on council here in Ashcroft, 96 through 99. And at the time, we tried to build on the heritage theme, and just to go back and build a little bit more on what the previous speaker talked about. Ashcroft has a lot of heritage to it. They have a museum, and I wish I had 25 cents for every time I've run into someone from elsewhere who has visited our marvelous museum. There's a little town in West Texas where my wife and I travel. They have one thing going for it, Judge Roy Bean's Saloon and Courthouse from the 19th century. 16 people live in Langtree, Texas. They get 250,000 visitors a year. It's out of the way. 250,000 visitors. That's a lot of money in a small town of 16 people. And we could do that here too. We have a lot of history. We have history that people from other provinces would love to have, let alone just up the street. You know, Barkerville, the Wells, right next door to it, that's where the people live. Sedona, Arizona, Taos, that were nothing, entities, as Bill mentioned a while ago, they were just nothing, and they built themselves into something by attracting other people going there and other people's money. We do nothing with our own money. You do it with other people's money coming in. Ennis, Montana, 150 people live there. They have an opera house, and on weekends it's to capacity from people who have to come 100 miles away to go to the opera house there. Not just drive down 10 miles. It's a long way to Ennis, Montana. But they go there for the history in the opera house, the history. Build it on the history. Wellness. I'm tired of having a new doctor every 2 years. And that's what I've been having, wellness. When I was on council, we tried to bring in a burning bylaw. I tried to bring in a burning bylaw. Why did we burn here? I lived in Richmond 45 years ago when we burned. Everyone had a burning barrel. But now we burn every October and April. Why burn? We don't have to burn. We live a couple of miles from the largest landfill in the province. Why do we still burn?
So your question to the candidates...
My question is, build it on the history and they'll come. Build it on wellness, I think we have a problem. What is wellness? I can't figure it out. Reasonably bright, I can't figure out what wellness is when every 2 years I get a different doctor who says, well, same pills, Mr. Haycock.
Bill, do you want to hear from the candidates how they'd address that situation?
No, it's too lengthy, but I just wanted to build on what the previous speaker had to say about the history of Ashcroft.
Okay. Do you folks want to address that?
I would just like to say that I would be very interested in having a walking museum. We have a lot of history in our community. We have beautiful pictures of our old drugstore and our old bakery and our old hospital and why do we not have a walking museum in our community where it would invite people to come into your business and see the display of history and how important that business has been to our community over the many years. I think that is a fairly simple, easy solution and one step towards the celebration of history.
Yeah, I'll also talk, because I sit on an ad hoc heritage committee, and I'll tell you that we get lots of people that will attend in October, but Heritage Week for the province is in February. And that's cold, and we don't get as many people that attend then. So I would tell you that our cemetery tours are very, very popular. Whenever we do anything around the Halloween time is very interesting, and we're currently working on something that fits in with our veterans. And that will happen in February this year, and we will be doing something, whether I'm on council or not, I'll still be part of that, bringing people in to talk about the history of our veterans in this community. So I would say that lots and lots of people are interested in this, but everybody has their lives that they go and do things at different times, and people go away in the winter in this community. So it often is a challenge, and it is truly one of the areas that I am very passionate about.
Is that everyone?
Because the province sets that, not us.
Make it really quick if you like there, Ray. We got a time constraint here. We want to move on to the other half of the meeting here. I know a lot of people have a lot to say about the issues that they're concerned about, but basically the microphone is there to ask a question and allow these people the chance to respond so that you all can decide who you'd like to vote for, okay?
Yeah, hi. My name's Ray Busa, and I was looking over the municipal finances, and what comes to mind is Winston Churchill said that taxing your way into prosperity is like standing in a bucket and trying to lift yourself up. So I see a lot of overlapping expenditures. I see like last year, 13,000 was allotted for village promotion. This year it's 30,000, and I don't see anything different. There is at the bottom of 4 different categories. There's sundries. And those 4 categories add up to 100 grand. That's a lot of paper clips. So have you looked at the finances, John?
Me?
Yes.
I looked at a couple of financial statements, and I've looked at the 5-year plan. That's all I've really had the opportunity to get at. And, you know, any financial statements, any plan are enormous summaries of a whole pile of detailed work. And I think it would be unwise to say that you can cut the paperclip budget without having been in there counting the paper clips, frankly.
Well, of course.
But I mean, I think your point about being efficient with expenditures, I'm willing to bet everybody on this council has been as efficient as they can possibly be, because there's just not a hell of a lot of money. The money coming from the province is shrinking all the time, or threatened to be shrinking all the time. I've spent a long time lobbying the province for more money, but it's got to be about, I think, being efficient with what you spend, but you've got to be looking for new revenue sources, new business activity, new ways of bringing people to town.
I'm wondering why we need a new fire truck, just because we can get $150,000 more from the provincial government, and we can make do for now with the garbage truck that we have. And I'm sure there are a lot of other areas where we can cut some bucks. Ashcroft taxes are way higher than most other communities, and I think that scares away a lot of business. Anyway, thanks.
Thank you, Ray. Any of you like to address that anymore, the fiscal end of things for council?
I believe that some of the statements, like the fire truck, there is a time limitation on our fire equipment that I can't. Don't have notes here to help me with that one.
That's for larger centers where there's a time frame. For a smaller center like that, we have someone that can do the inspections on staff. There's no reason why we can't use the same truck. It's like brand new.
That's your opinion. That's not what I've heard. I've also heard that the garbage truck is limping badly, the old garbage truck, and it's not going to hold up. So we need to be aware of what are the facts behind that, and I would have to have someone verify that, my facts that I'm trying to share with you now, to make sure that they're accurate as well. But I would encourage you, if you have questions, to call the village office and ask those questions, because administration would be more knowledgeable. Okay?
Okay.
I'd just like to say it's critically important to be planning for replacement of equipment. Historic Ashcroft doesn't want to be known for a historic fire truck that won't start. So we need to plan for those infrastructure needs and for replacement of equipment. And as tough as that is, we can't afford to have safety an issue in the community if we don't have the appropriate equipment to provide that safety.
Okay. Well, folks, we want to get moving along here. What I'm going to do now is open up the microphones to the closing speech of 2 minutes. And we'll begin with Helen Cormody. And Helen, when you're getting down in time, I'll just do a little tap on the table, okay? Just to let you know you got about 30 seconds to go.
Well, I didn't prepare anything for a closing speech, so I guess what I'll say is many of you know me. I've lived here for 15 years, and I'm going door to door, and there's my phone number that's on the flyer and my email. So if you have any questions, I'm going to ask you to hang on to my phone number and my email, because what I find is that I go door to door once every 3 years, but I'd really like to hear from people in between those campaigns. And I have thought a lot about Hillary Clinton, what she did. She used to do fact-finding missions prior to going into election to hear what people thought. And I'd like to know what people think between campaigns. And so for me, I've said that democracy is very important. We're coming up to Remembrance Day, and we can think of our family members that gave their lives so that we have a democracy. In 2008, 54% of the people in Ashcroft voted. So I'm hoping that we will have a greater number this year, and I'm hoping to see that people are really engaged with this process. You have a lot of ideas, and I'm welcoming that diversity. I think it's incredibly important to hear from people. And so come to our meetings, come to the Committee of the Whole. If something here didn't fit right with you for tonight, please come and talk to me about that. I'm more than willing to hear what you have to say and work with you. So I want to say thank you very much for coming out tonight, and look forward to talking to you all later. Thank you.
Thank you. My apologies to you all, and especially to Alice. I got my order in disorder there. If you'd like to say your 2 minutes worth now, and then we'll move on to Jerry after.
I promise not to take my 2 minutes, but I do know that you probably didn't have a chance to answer your questions. You may not have been happy with the answer that you got, and you'd like some more explanation. I want to encourage you. I'm interested in hearing your concerns and also your solutions. I have a website at which you can respond. There are articles on that website of what things that I'm interested in and what I believe and what I want to see happen, and there's a space for you to answer as long as you identify yourself so I know who you are, because I can't answer, I'm not going to respond to people I don't know or anonymous kinds of questions. So I would encourage you to pick up one of my brochures that's available this evening, and my website's on there so that you'll know how to get hold of me, as well as some items that I might not have covered tonight. I would ask you to please plan to vote on the 19th. We have a tremendous, you have a tremendous choice of candidates here. All of us sound fairly sensible and really like you have a good choice this election. And so I'm happy for you and I really am trusting you to pick the candidates that will best support your ideas and that you can feel confident in. You know, I've tried to come up with an elegant closing because it seems that that's appropriate. I hope I can somewhat be an elegant person, but I just keep coming back to those old words that famous Canadian sage said. His saying is, "I'm rooting for you." You know, we're all in it together, but we also have to keep our sticks on the ice and play that really good game of doing and going ahead and all working together to get there. And so I thank you for your voting, for being sure to vote, because we know our world situation is such that we can really see that we have a wonderful advantage that we can freely vote for the government of our choice. So thank you for coming tonight, and thank you.
Thank you, Alice. Jerry Fiddick.
Well, I want to thank everyone for coming out as well. There's some really good points that were brought up and some really good discussion. I'm also going door to door, and I would love to hear your concerns or any ideas that you have as well. And I echo the other incumbents that said, if you come with your ideas to council, the committee of the whole, tell us about it, what you want, what you think we should do, and how maybe we could do it. But I go out, I get involved in the community in all sorts of different areas, and I'm able to take what I hear and the issues that are brought up to me at those times back to council, and when I'm in council, I can work for you and for the village as a whole, as well as the individual citizens. We all have to be working together. The mayor, council, the citizens, and community partners. That's the only way we're going to make a better community. By working together, we'll make a healthier community and an even better place to live. Once again, I thank you all for coming out, and good night.
Gail Groom.
Thank you, John. Thank you again, everyone, for coming. I'm a little sore. I'm disappointed that I don't see more younger families here. That is disappointing. However, I haven't run for public office before, but I will say to you that I can't promise results, but I can promise that I will work very hard, and I have my wish list of 3 issues. And I hope that at the end of my term that the results of my term will be measurable. And that's basically all I have to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bill. Jackie?
Thank you, everyone, for coming this evening. And I would challenge all of you to not expect council to do all the work, because it's more than a vote. It is a community working together. And we're only as strong as we all are together. And the interest this evening has been terrific. But when we blow that cannon down the main street, it's because none of us are on it. So thank you very much.
Barbara?
Again, thank you to everyone for coming out tonight. Thank you to Ashcreek TV, to John Douglas for moderating. I speak as someone who's worked in the public and private sectors, someone who is a small business owner, someone who has known what it is like to drive up to the hospital with a loved one who had a very real chance of dying, and to know how grateful I was that that hospital was there when we all needed it. I have a 14-year-old son who has lived his entire life in Ashcroft. I am blessed that he has had the same kind of childhood that I had. Mom and Dad kicking us out of the house and expecting us to come home when we're hungry. And Tim has been able to do that. I'm so proud that he's here at the high school. He has so many opportunities ahead of him. I will be honest, open, approachable. I don't promise to know the answers, but I do promise to find out the answers for you. I would be honored if you made me one of your choices on the 19th of November. Thank you.
And the last of our candidates for council is John Kidder. John.
Well, I'm pretty sensitive to the history matter. My address is actually 1 Old Mill Road. I live on the head race of what the old mill was before there was a town here. And when I have people come to visit me, I always talk about the history of this town. And I think it's wonderful. I think that what the council has done in supporting the museum downtown is a signal effort and a wonderful thing to do. And I think it ties into what we need to do to be bringing new people here to town. My particular focus aside, I mean, I am a good financial manager and all that sort of stuff that councilors need to be. That's up to the staff to do it, but council needs to oversee it. But my particular focus, I would put my effort on bringing culture to this town, on bringing people into this town who are going to make it alive. And I know that's happened. It's happened in other towns. I know it can happen here. It's an industry that can be developed here by the people who are here now, without waiting for the blessing of the Board of Tech, without necessarily waiting for David McLean from CN to say we're ready to rock and roll. That's something that we can do here with the folks who are here. Some of the folks in this room are part of this movement, if I can put it that way, and that's where my particular focus will be. I believe that we can build a thriving cultural, artistic community in this town that rivals anything else in Canada. And I think we can bring all sorts of folks here to the Opera House, any number of other venues in this place, if we pull together with a will to get that done. It takes focus. Any successful venture takes focus. There's all kinds of stuff that needs to be done to make a village work, but we have to focus on 1 or 2 activities to get the people to come here to make the village successful. I hope I can be part of that. I look forward to getting 25% of your vote when the time comes. Thank you very much.
John.
Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, before we get rolling with the mayoral candidates for tonight, I'd like to say a word of thanks to Ashcroft Secondary for the use of these facilities. It's very kind of them to allow us to be here tonight. These bleachers are, probably as most of you know, they're brand new. This is the first time they've been used at all. And it's a great venue, and we're happy that they've allowed us to be here tonight. So thank you to Ashcroft Secondary. Format for the mayoral candidate section of the meeting is going to take place in pretty much the same order as the councillor candidates. We will begin with the new candidate and then move on to the incumbent. Same basic format as before. They'll have 5 minutes to basically state their platform. At that point, the microphone will once again be open for questions. Again, for time constraints, if you could formulate a question, keep it brief. It's not a barn dance. We're trying to run a candidates meeting here, okay? So anyway, I'd like to start off with introducing our new candidate for mayor this year, 2011, and that is Mr. Joris Ekring. Joris, if you'd like to give us 5 minutes of your thoughts.
Hi.
Hi.
Uh-oh. I'm one little word into my speech and I'm already in trouble. Because I don't know how to address you. As a group, I know most of you by name, but as a group, what are you? Are you Ashcroftians?
Right.
Or Ashcrofterites? Ashcrofters? I've never really figured that out. Does anybody of you have an idea? Okay, in that way we can just keep going. You are a wonderful community. At the last election in 2008, out of 1,300 and some electors, 730 showed up to vote. That's 54%. That's a really good percentage on a national average. And I'm very proud of that. That is a wonderful sense of community. My name is Joris Ekering, and I have a Dutch heritage, which is why some of you have noticed I wear yellow shoes. They're not made of wood, but at least they're yellow. As an immigrant, and not having English as my first language, occasionally I get into trouble with English. Because English is a really, really crazy language. It's sometimes I can make fun of it, sometimes it is my downfall. You get little things like vegetarians eat vegetables. I'm a humanitarian. Having said that, the one thing I'd like to bring to the community of Ashcroft is a strong voice. A strong voice for our community, a strong voice in government, a strong voice to all other levels of government. Ashcroft can exist. Ashcroft can have slightly larger letters on the map. And what that takes is a firm voice for the community from a person who has his feet on the ground. So my main platform is a thing called sustainable community. 90% of what you heard from the candidates for council point to one little concept. And that little concept is as huge as the whole world. It is sustainable community. Nice term. What does it mean? It means dynamic, enduring, renewable community structures. And I don't mean just buildings. Community structures is the culture, is the wellness that we're talking about. That is what is important to carry on into the future. And that means that we have to balance economic, social, and environmental issues. Some of those are that we have to look at agriculture as much as we have to look at industry to move forward. We have to certainly look at our heritage, to not only preserve it, but to stick with it, go through with it, add it, come into the future. We have a bylaw in this village. Bylaw 747 sounds like a bloody airplane. But Bylaw 747 says that within the downtown core, we have to stick to a certain architectural plan that is based on what the community was like when most of our heritage originally started back at the turn of the last century. And so I'd like to have a strong voice to maintain that. Some of you people have been talking about these empty lots downtown. Well, sooner or later, somebody is going to build on those. And let's make sure it doesn't necessarily look like a post office. That it fits in with the heritage idea that we have, that we should have, that we want to have to bring people into town and enjoy what we have. The next part of a sustainable community is called zero waste. And I'm very sorry that the garbage truck is on its last legs and that we're buying a new one now, including big garbage containers, because in a way, I want to go the other way and reduce the garbage as much as possible to the point maybe we don't really need a garbage truck. If we can do that, what a wonderful step forward we have made. Other communities have been able to do this. We can do it. I want Ashcroft to become a model for other communities, not only in BC, but all across this wonderful country of ours. Ashcroft can be an example of what you can do. John Lennon said, if you dream by yourself, it's just a dream. But if you share your dream, it becomes reality. And I firmly believe in that. Zero waste, what does it really mean? It means that we get away from packaging. In a very simple form, if you buy something that is, say, in a bubble package or something like that, unpack it at the store and give the store the package back. Sooner or later, that store is going to tell their suppliers, the people don't want this. And their suppliers will change their attitudes. We have to start right here on the ground in a small town like this. One more thing. We have a wonderful group of people that came up with Wellness Awaits You. We thank them for that. It means we have to take responsibility for our wellness. It also means that we have economic wellness. The hospital is an example. We now get transferred to Kamloops if there is an emergency and the local hospital is closed. Has anybody ever had that situation? How do you get back from Kamloops? When you're in your underwear, basically. Anyway, I'm totally against spraying for weeds with any chemicals. I want to see truck traffic reduced, or at least I want to see Arrow put in a rumble strip, which is the kind of thing that they use in the bigger cities, where the dump truck goes over the strip. It's like a cattle guard, and most of the dust and loose debris falls off before they get onto the road. My last line then is, Ashcroft's wellness awaits us. Thank you.
Thank you, Joris. We'll hear now from incumbent Mayor Andy Anderson. Andy, 5 minutes introductory speech.
Okay, thank you, John. And first of all, I'd like to thank the TV Society for this opportunity to address all of you and anybody that watches television later. And thanks, John, for being the moderator. I know it's something new for you, so you're doing a great job. I think most of you know me, but I will give a bit of my history because I do know and I do see new people in the store every now and again, and it's really good to see that there are new faces coming into the community. My family moved here in 1965. We came from out by Seton Lake. My father worked for BC Hydro, and he was in the office that was in Ashcreek at that time. Went to school here, both elementary and high school. After high school, went off to college, Caribou College in Kamloops at the time, to be a heavy-duty mechanic. Worked for Bethlehem Copper, worked at Lornex. Been in the area for quite a while, worked with a lot of the folks that are even here now. I went to work for Cullen Diesel, which was out of Kamloops, and they transferred me to Revelstoke as a company employee there. I was there for 13 years and then came back to Ashcroft. I came back, I needed to help my parents, my father along, and the opportunity knocked, so I ended up buying Murray, what a lot of people know as Murray Kane, and it's the early store today. So that's what brought me back to Ashcroft, and I guess we all end up back in Ashcroft if that's where you come from. So, and I'm glad of that. When I came back, first while I was president of the Chamber of Commerce for 7 years. I also looked after the Stampede Parade for that 7 years. And up till now, and probably this year as well, which will be the 13th annual, I take care of the fly-in and do all the organizing and make sure that that's a really good event and has come along really well. So thanks for all the support on that. I've been mayor for 7 years in Ashcroft and have been working on bringing large industry and the Ashcroft to the Ashcroft terminal. It's now finally starting to come together. We had a report at council, the last council meeting, from Bob Landucci, the property owner. He's got lots of irons in the fire. He's got lots of opportunity. We finally got the federal government to see that this is a worthwhile project, and there's $5 million waiting to be utilized for the infrastructure on that site. The federal election slowed things down in the paperwork side of things. The Treasury now are back on track. The paperwork is close, and then they have to come up with all the criteria that's necessary for how that $5 million can be used, because it can't be used for one specific customer on that property. It has to be utilized for what would serve a number of customers or all, which means a siding, a major spur line where everybody goes through. So there's all of that kind of criteria that has to be worked out, and we're in the process of doing that right now. And I think most of you are here for that announcement. About a year and a half ago, that was with, thanks to Chuck Strahl and Stockwell Day, there's $5 million that's usable on that site. It has a deadline, so we're pushing hard to get it utilized so that we don't lose it. If we don't use it, we will lose it. So we're working really hard to make sure that we get that opportunity. During UBCM, Council had a meeting with Premier Clark, and I explained to her that I explained that when we took the Ashcroft terminal abroad to Asian governments and companies, they wanted to know where the provincial government was in this project. The Premier said that she will be our best salesman. I've also been working on a data center in the area, and you heard the announcement that the TELUS data center was going into Kamloops. Well, we were the next choice. And I worked really hard, and I saved the project twice. And my belief is that there was some provincial politics that had to play into that, because they ended up buying a site that was worth 7 times more than what our site was. And because it was so close, I know that that is an extremely viable site, and I know that we can sell it. And I explained all this, and the Premier said that she will be our voice. She will get the doors open that we need to get open. And tomorrow, John Less and Pamela Martin are coming to tour the Ashcroft terminal site and to participate in a meeting at the Ashcroft Village office. And Pamela Martin, I think most of you will know her from Global TV. She now works for Premier Clark. So she's pushing hard. She's working for us already, and UBCM was just in September. So I'm hoping that this is the person that's going to open the door for us for the provincial government. We are also now part of the Asian Gateway Initiative, which took a little bit of push to be recognized as part of that with that site. They do recognize the fact that that is the only site between the coast and Edmonton that CP and CN are on the same side of the tracks. And I want to do everything I can to continue to work on that. That is one of the things that's going to solve a lot of the issues that we're talked about with the council here. If we can get it, what's going to keep the young people here? Jobs. That's what they need. They got to have the jobs to stay. They got to have the jobs to stay so they can look after us in the Thompson View Manor when we get there. But if they don't have the jobs, they're not going to be here. So, to me, to continue to work on these two projects, we have the contacts. We have contacts with government. We have contacts with CP Rail. CN Rail are now on side. They're all talking to us where before they didn't do that, and now they are. So I would really like your support to continue to try, and it's the big gamble, you bet, but if we get it, it's the one that's going to sustain us economically for a number of years to come. And I would love to be able to do that for my grandson as much as I would yours. So please vote for me, and I'll be glad to work for you. Thank you.
Thank you very very much, Mr. Anderson. Once again, we will have the microphone now open for questions. If anybody has any issues that they'd like to specifically address to the incumbent or the new candidate. The reason we're asking you all to come down to the microphone is because these good folks at Ashcreek TV are recording this, and if you holler a question from the back bench, then all it is a little bit of blurby blurb in the background. It won't get recorded, so they'd like to get everyone's thoughts on tape here and put it up on YouTube. So that's why the microphone is there. If anybody'd like to come down and address the candidates with any concerns or questions, now would be the time.
I'm so stiff and old. Mayor Anderson, I've been told that dealing with corporations like the CPR and the CNR is like Goliath and David. They're slow, they're cumbersome, it's huge bureaucracies and so on. It must be extremely difficult to work to get the kind of cooperation and so on that you need from these huge monoliths.
So, yeah, you're very right. It took us, it was 6 years before the federal government recognized us to get the $5 million funding. And CP Rail, when we initially talked to them, it's their own destiny that they look after, and to be quite honest with you, I kind of think that they're a little behind. I think that everything has been running so well for them. I'm a businessman, and if I see a customer comes to me, I want that customer. CP Rail see a customer come with 1,500 cars that you want delivered to Ashcroft, and to them that's nothing. They really don't want that. They don't want their railroad interrupted. But I think that we're at a point now where we're interrupting them enough that they see the potential in it, and because of the number of cars that are going onto that site now, it's tying up their main line to the point now they see they're going to have to put a siding in, and CP will have to do it on their own property because they have a fairly wide right-of-way. They're going to have to do that just to relieve the pressure of blocking their main line for cars to be shunted onto the site.
So there's light at the end of the tunnel?
It's like the end of the tunnel. We're pushing it hard to the point where they're going to have to do something because they're not liking us blocking their main line with the amount of traffic we have there. And I think there's 600 or 700 cars that Canada Lafarge are going to turn out of there in a year. And I'm under the understanding that a little further down they're going to start shipping to Vancouver as well. So it may double, which is great. That makes it so that it's more viable for us.
Yours, any thoughts on that subject at all?
I fully agree with you. They are monoliths.
There must be more issues at stake here, folks. If anyone else would like to approach the microphone and ask the candidates.
To both candidates, if you are re-elected, Andy, and if Joris, you're elected, there seems to be a feeling in the meeting tonight that people want to talk about the problems of Ashcroft. And a couple of the candidates mentioned the website and the newsletter that the council now puts out. But could we have some assurance that we might get more opportunity for public consultation and discussion under the next council? Because we don't seem to have that. I know we can come along to Committee of Whole, but you're restricted in time. If there were more time available at, say, like a gathering like this, I think you might get more turnout, you might get more interest, and I think a lot of people here would like to see that.
Thank you, Mr. Roden. It is my intention to be constantly in touch with the village, which means I will attend meetings from any group in town. I will visit any church in town. I want to have constant reminders of people that they can talk, we're free to talk, and I want to hear the concerns, and I want to be able to give answers. Thank you.
I think one thing in our previous council that we've always advocated is that we want the public's participation. We have open houses on when there's decisions that need to be made on any major projects. There's been open houses. You always have the opportunity to come to the committee of the whole, and I think a number of you have done that, and thanks for doing that. And if you have questions, sometimes there's questions that people want to ask and they don't want a whole bunch of other people around. I mean, a lot of people know where they can find me, and a lot of people do, and they come in and they ask the questions, and sometimes the answers aren't what they want to hear, but I do my best to, if I can't answer the question, I'll see if I can find some information that satisfies the answer for you. So I'm always available to anybody. They usually know where to find me. I'm quite often on the main street.
It's an interesting question, actually, because during the break I've had 3 different people approach me and mention the fact that one thing they would like to see in Ashcroft more is a town hall style meeting where people can go ahead and pound the table and yell and jump about what really got their goat, you know.
We've had a couple of those.
Yeah. But yeah, I've heard that as well. It's an interesting point. Just maybe once every month or 2 months, call a meeting and let people air their issues.
I wonder if maybe, if anybody else doesn't have a specific question, if I could answer just a couple of questions that were asked of the council candidates. Mm-hmm. There was one that was asked about the garbage truck, and it's been a subject of a number of people here. The garbage truck has completely been funded by grants and through green funds, through gas tax money. None of it came from the Ashcroft, shall we say, taxes particularly. The other thing that was necessary for us to change the garbage truck, and I'm with Eurus on the zero waste. If we can figure out a way to absolutely create no garbage whatsoever, hey, I'm all for that. No problem at all. But the other problem is our old garbage truck, we're probably one of the very few communities left that still have a guy hanging on the back of it. And why we haven't had workman's comp create a problem for us because of that is we've been very lucky. And the guys have done a great job, and they've been able to stay on it. And if there has been the odd small injury or back sore and stuff, it's because of the garbage truck. So we needed to get into the 21st century. The old truck's 22 years old. It served us well. So I just wanted to, kind of give you an idea as to the reason behind it.
How much cost for a new truck?
Off the top of my head, I think about $250,000. Somewhere there. $356? Okay. But it was all covered, so that's great. And that was because of the staff doing a good job getting our grants.
You here?
Yeah. Okay.
Yours, did you have any comments on some of, like Andy did, on some of the questions that were asked of the councillor candidates at all? You want to take one particular issue and tackle it?
My name's Stan Morrison. I'm just a lowly drywaller here in town. But I got a question for yours. Is everybody's talking about bringing young people, getting our young people to stay in town, raise families, and keep things going. But yours, I'd like to ask you, what we heard Mr. Anderson say he's been working diligently down here at the railway site down here. What would be your plan? What kind of jobs would you think that you could get started or have people hire young people with?
Well, if I had a pat answer, we'd all be no longer have, none of us would have a problem anymore. But what we need is, I fully agree with John Kidder that the cultural industry is a very good one to promote. Industry is not necessarily the way to go. I'm very sorry to hear that one industry that had a plan to come here now seems to have been waylaid. There was a chance for some jobs. I think that maybe they needed a better chance to explain what they were planning to do. But just asking industry is a very slow process. We need to be more, we have to have a greater diversity of things that we can work on. Yes, cultural industry is big. We can make music here. We have a local studio. Unfortunately, he's working in Vancouver. Well, what we have to do is find people like that that can work here. And if the industry is here, if the people are here, so will they work here rather than go back to Vancouver to work. So it all takes a lot of people to bring this together. And there is no easy answer. But we need to be more diversified. That is my main goal. More ideas, bring them forward, different plans, not just industry. Thank you.
Well, if we have no more questions, I'll ask Mayor Anderson to give his 2-minute closing speech, and we'll take it from there.
Okay, thank you, John. I think maybe some of the other things is we've always talked about having a green community and having a community that has something that it's noted for. And I think a lot of people here now realize that our swimming pool is now solar heated for the water side, and we also have photovoltaic panels on the roof that are also helping on the electricity side. So we've managed to cut down on the gas bill quite a bit, and we don't know we haven't got enough data yet as to see how we've made out with the electrical side. We also have an upgrade that's about to get started here right shortly on our sewer plant, which will make it quite a bit more efficient so that there's certain components within that plant that won't run around the clock because they can't shut down at low demand times and they can't speed back up when they need to. So we're going to change that, which is going to make that more efficient and hopefully cost us a little bit less in electricity. We're doing everything that we can to make this community as efficient as we possibly can, as well as to make it so that it's green and people can be proud of the fact that they live in a community like Ashcroft. And I will continue to do that, but to me, the focus is I really do want to make sure that we can keep the young folks here. It keeps our schools open, it keeps our health system working, it keeps everything working. It solves problems down the way, and it'll also fill in those lots in our downtown community. One of the reasons that some of those lots buildings don't get put back up after they've burnt down, Bailey Mall in particular, is that building was built over 100 years ago and probably cost about $7,000 to build. In today's world, that same building is probably well over $900,000 to $1 million to build again. And you can't ask people to pay $1,500 in rent when there's not enough traffic and people coming through when the old building's rent was $700. So you can kind of see the economics as to why it's hard to get new buildings built. You need the flow of people. You need the young people that want to buy stuff, build homes, drive cars, build families. Those are the ones that get the catalyst to get everything else going and keep us going as well. So I hope to be able to continue that work, and I truly want to be able to finish one of these major projects. So I hope you'll vote for me on November the 19th. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Andy. Joris, 2 minutes closing statement.
Well, first of all, I want to thank you all for being here. I want to thank you all for showing this much interest. I want to thank you all for making up your mind on November the 19th or any of the advance polls before that, if you happen to be out of town. But please take advantage of the fact that you can vote. One thing I'd like to ask all of you is to be part of the dream. And that means shopping more locally, not going to Kamloops quite as often, please. It also means think about the heritage theme. Bob Rankin brought it up. I'm in great favor of that. I think we should improve our relations with Ashcreek as much as possible so that we are more of a community. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Once again, thanks to the audience for being here. The Ashcreek TV Society will be broadcasting a recorded version of this forum on YouTube during the election week. As well, they will provide live coverage of the election results on Saturday, the 19th of November, beginning at 8 p.m. It is hoped that this will be broadcast live on TV and the internet, subject to special equipment arriving in time. Otherwise, it will be on the local radio station. Tune in to the FM station for updates as to how the election results will be covered. All candidates are invited to participate in the broadcast after the results are tabulated. I'm sure many of them are going to show up and take part in that for sure if they can, if schedules permit. Election day is Saturday the 19th, where you're asked to mark your X beside 4 of the candidates' names for councillor, and on the second ballot, 1 for mayor. For those who cannot be available to vote on that day, you can cast your vote in advance polls at the village office. The forum for the Ashcreek candidates will be held at the community hall there this Wednesday at 7 p.m. You're welcome to attend if you wish. And I'd like to once again thank the candidates for running in this election and wish you all both good luck. And on behalf of the Ashcroft TV Society and the Chamber of Commerce, thank you all for coming here tonight to hear your candidates, and please go out and vote. Thank you. One further note, Mayor Anderson has pointed out that the advance ballots will be available also at the community hall.
Yeah, not the village office.
Okay. Thank you.